Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for our first really dedicated playoff video. Playoffs coming up next Monday. You're going to get full previews for each game. We'll do them individually. I've been appearing on various other platforms talking about these games. We're going to get into it now. By way of an introduction today, we're going to look at each of the games between the teams that finished in the playoffs, being Brentford, Swansea, Barnsley and Bournemouth. We know that Brentford are going to play Bournemouth. We know that Swansea are going to play Barnsley. I've looked at all of the games between each of the four teams. So given that you're playing three other teams twice, 6 per team, but given we're duplicating, it's only 12 games to look at. So I've just gone back into the annals of the 2021 season and brought up all of the historical games between these sides just to see what their head-to-head looks like, particularly between the sides that are playing each other. More importantly though, what do these teams do in big games and how have things changed across the season? Now, bearing in mind Barnsley came in late with a slow start, it's probably good news that the first playoff head-to-head game didn't occur until November. Remember, we started in September, so 2 months in. And there we go. 3rd of November, Brentford 1, Swansea 1. That is the first head-to-head game between any playoff teams. Go figure with your key men, Ivan Toney scoring and Andre Ayew scoring as well. Things looking a little bit different there. No Pontus Jansson for Brentford, but look, they've got the fullbacks in. They've got Josh De Silva in. We may see only one of those in the playoffs. Toney and Ayew, like we said on the scoring charts as well. No Grimes in for Swansea in there, but that was the days of the 3 at the back for Swansea. And I assume Brentford are just going into their 21-game undefeated streak. Then I'd have to check back. But so there's your first one. Swansea went to Brentford and got a draw, which in playoff terms is a pretty fine result, an away draw, isn't it? Here's the next one. 24th of November, and it was Barnsley 0, Brentford 1. Now, of course, Valerian Ismail is in now, but Barnsley are not yet the Barnsley we got to know and love during the season. And look who's doing the business again. 31-goal Ivan Toney. He is, well, scored all of Brentford's goals in our analysis so far here. You can see, Solbauer's in there with Hellick and Anderson at the back. That's maybe Civic now, isn't it? Things developing there. That looks more like Ismail's team. Obviously, Ramal Palmer's going to come in central midfield at some point. Maybe Frieser, no more, especially with DK arriving after Christmas. But strategy, probably getting towards what they're going to be using in their mad run, Barnsley. But they're going to lose the home game here. So good start for Brentford in the head-to-heads. Jansson's in there. Probably full-strength team there. Fosu starting up top. And Brentford get the win at Barnsley. Next one, it's Barnsley again. It's Barnsley versus Bournemouth on the 4th of December. And look at that. Barnsley 0, Bournemouth 4. I don't suspect we're going to find a bigger winning margin between any of the playoff teams in our analysis. Watch and find out. But really a sense before Barnsley went crazy points-wise that they were getting a lot of the points off the bottom half. Obviously in the second half of the season that's changed and you'll see that in some of the results. But this was a great job by Bournemouth, and one of the best exponents here, well, it's Jason Tindall actually, not even Jonathan Woodgate, at exploiting the high line. I remember Surridge walking in behind for the 4th one. Rico, I think that was a curler, and 2 goals in the first half. I remember Barnsley just having trouble with the sweeper keeping of Walton, and Bournemouth just sat in there, picked them off. They did match them up by the look of the positions with a back 3. We'll see if Swansea elect to do that. But our first appearance from Bournemouth, and A lovely old win there. Front two as well. Surridge and Solanke. Don't suspect you'll see that in the playoff. Next up, Swansea 0, Bournemouth 0. Just a few days later, Bournemouth going off to Swansea on the Tuesday night. Notice Swansea in difficult games here can pull out draws, can't they? A 0-0 there and a clean sheet. 2-3-5-2s. I suspect it might be two back fours in the playoffs for sure. But no goals in this one. So Mayhew couldn't make the difference here. I'm going to dander in there in central midfield. It's going to turn into Hurahan soon, isn't it? So 0-0 in that one. And then a win for Swansea just before Christmas. And Barnsley not faring well in the head-to-heads in the first half of the season for sure. Swansea are. But think about both of those side seasons per se. You would say Barnsley for the first, Swansea for the first 60% were stronger than they were in the last 40%. And probably Barnsley in the first 35% were not as strong as they were in the last 65%. So it's an away defeat for Barnsley over at the Liberty. Jamal Lowe, early goal. Victor Adebayo with an own goal in that one. And so far from our research, Swansea looking hard to beat. Barnsley not quite there yet. Brentford versus Bournemouth, Wednesday 30th of December. This, I think it is, isn't it, is our first actual match-up that we're getting. Is it? Or did I just do Swansea-Barnsley? Excuse me. I'm an idiot. I just did Swansea-Barnsley. So there you go. That's one of the actual head-to-heads that's going to be a playoff. So is this. And this was a great game. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Dom Solanke gave Bournemouth the lead on 25. Dalsgaard and Fosu. I think Fosu, came off the bench to get that winner. And it was a great game of football, this. Really good. Bournemouth were at it. They were superb for the opening part of the game. But this was at the point where Brentford just sort of kept going behind and then kept winning games in their long run. If we get a game as open and free-flowing as this one between the two, I'll be very pleased. I'll be surprised because playoff tends to be a bit nervy, but wouldn't that be a fine thing between these two? Brentford, again, getting the win. As we go into the new year, and another defeat for Barnsley. So, they're head-to-head, and we've seen this before in the playoffs. Barnsley 0, Swansea 2. Swansea, who played Barnsley in the playoffs, have beaten them twice by 2-0 on both occasions. This is pre-Daryl DK, and this is pre-7-game winning streak here. Cabango and Lowe doing the damage in this one up at Barnsley. If I remember correctly, a long throw for the first goal and a breakaway, I think, for the second goal. And in the same way Bournemouth did, Swansea were able to go up, and Brentford did as well, didn't they, in those home games and go and win at Oakwell. So what we do know, and whether it's a reasonable point, probably not, given how the teams have finished the season, if you rolled out the first two games in the regular league season, you're giving Swansea the edge. There's more water to go under the bridge before we can do that, though, isn't there? There we go. Swansea 1, Brentford 1. And this was a little bit the start of maybe us thinking Brentford might tail off a little bit, because they went to Swansea. They played really well. I was very surprised they couldn't get the win here. They toiled and they toiled. They took the lead in the end. Fosu doing the damage again off the bench. Is he one to watch as a sub? I think he'd probably be starting, won't he? And then Connor Hurahan, he curled in that free kick, didn't he, from right out on the touchline. But again, Swansea doing all right in these games. They've not lost many of them. Ivan Toney's goals have dried up a little bit in these, haven't they? The 31-goal man. Swansea 1, Brentford 1. So 2 draws between Swansea and Brentford, if they were to happen to meet at any point before the end of the month. Right, now here come Barnsley. Now we've got DK in, and now here starts the incredible winning streak. And this was the turning point, wasn't it? This game for Brentford and Barnsley on Valentine's Day. Brilliant performance by Barnsley. Thrilling. went to Brentford, pressed the hell out of them. Really good value for a 2-0 win. Chaplin and Morris, I believe it was DK's debut. And look at that there on 56 on the subs. The fabled triple substitution there. All the strikers off and 3 new ones on. Brilliant stuff from Ishmael. And Barnsley really then announcing themselves at that point as we go on. No, they're not just going to be winning against teams that are lower down in the table. They're going to Brentford, who were top, I think, at that point, weren't they? That was the last game, or the game before, rather, was the last game of the 21-game undefeated streak. And obviously Norwich and Watford in the future are going to zoom past them. A first win for Barnsley as well. Tremendous. And there is another win for Barnsley. And do you know what? That might be win number 7, mightn't it? I don't know. I can't remember. Certainly would be around that time, given the streak started a month roughly before. And a brilliant back and forth, this one, between Bournemouth and Barnsley. Look at that. Hellick gives them the lead. Danjuma equalise. Solanke then spins it round and Bournemouth have the lead at half-time. But back come Barnsley, Freeser and Carlton Morris with the goals. Did Bournemouth look a bit susceptible to Barnsley's set plays? I don't know. But now, there's some evidence. Barnsley have gone to 2 playoff sides and 1 away from home. Scored 5 goals into the bargain as well. Underestimate them at your peril. Bournemouth there, a home defeat in one of the head-to-heads. But, look at that for a big win. In fact, Bournemouth must have had the 2 biggest wins in all the head-to-heads. The 4-0 up at Barnsley and this 3-0 on March the 16th, just a couple of days after, against Swansea. Billing, Latabodia own goal and Danjuma. You can see Danjuma and Billing now at 10 and left hand off the front, starting to have an influence. I remember, I think this is the last game before international breaks, or one of them, and Swansea were starting to slip at this point, weren't they? And go into their, well, they've been in automatic chasing form for the first, as I say, 60% of the season. Going to start to slip now, and some questions are going to be asked and some changes are going to be made. So just remember that. The 2 biggest wins have been for Bournemouth, a 4 and a 3. But there's a home defeat for Bournemouth again. The most recent one there. 24th, of April. Brentford go to Bournemouth. And they were good value for it, wasn't it? I remember it. This was the day where, I think, where Watford went up, wasn't it? And Brentford kept on the... I'm trying to remember exactly how... Because this would have been the early kickoff. And I think Watford went up later in the day. That's right. If results had gone the other way, we could have still had a chase on at this point. I think I'm right that Watford got promoted on this day. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Seems a long time ago. A lot of football been played. Brian Mbuemo coming off the bench and scoring the winning goal. And look now, Brentford have switched to the 3 at the back, having had their iffy run with loads and loads of draws to finish up the season. So there you go. There are the numbers. As you'd imagine, pretty much going with the league table. Although Barnsley are the bottom of it. So Brentford, then Swansea, then Bournemouth, then Barnsley. In the actual league table, Barnsley would be above Bournemouth, wouldn't they? So Brentford, only 1 defeat, 3 wins in there. Not a huge amount of goals, but still 1 per game and less than 1 per game conceded. Interestingly enough, they've got exactly the same for and against as Swansea in these games. So the game management, obviously, just 1 game better, with Swansea coming in there second with 9 points from their 6 games. Maybe those sides sort of dominated the early going, with Bournemouth and Barnsley both having runs in the second half of the season. Bournemouth, do draw your attention to 4-10. They scored way more goals, including that 4 and that 3, in these games. And they punished Barnsley at Oakwell. They punished Swansea as well at the Vitality to get 7 points. They did lose 3 of these games. Barnsley's a very interesting one because they lost all of the first 4, but then they won the last 2. So they're coming in, maybe having bottomed out, on a little bit of a climb here, aren't they, Barnsley? So look, read into it what you will. The form between the playoffs teams is Brentford, best, Swansea, then Bournemouth, and then Barnsley. We know that the playoffs don't always go with the league table. They don't always go with immediate form. They don't always go with seasonal form. They are a competition in their own right. They are not a lottery. We can do better than giving up any kind of analysis or prediction and just assuming that random events are going to settle the playoffs. Let's use different language than that if we can. But interesting. Very, very interesting. We'll get more into the playoffs as we go on through the week. Don't know what my key finding is there. Obviously, the actual regression during the season of Brentford and Swansea in the games and the growth of Bournemouth and Barnsley. I think the Bournemouth goal scoring thing really is playing with me here in the brain. Wonder if that could be a factor. Could they be the most free scoring against any of these opponents? Let me know what you think in the chat. Again, don't worry if you're going to comment, oh, Ben, it doesn't matter. These games have already been played. Don't worry about commenting. We're just having a little bit of a look back and seeing if we can find anything that we think might be of interest to talk about. If it's not of interest to you to talk about it, then I don't know why you've got 16 minutes into a video about it to hear me say this, for goodness sake. But let's all play nicely in the comments and see if we can get some ideas or some theories as to what we may learn. And believe me, the managers, don't tell me the managers have learned nothing from these games against their opponents. They really have. Let's see if we can do something as fans and notice any patterns as well. As I said, we have got plenty to do. I think we are going to be dropping videos on Thursday and Friday. So we're going to preview Brentford versus Bournemouth on Thursday, Swansea versus Barnsley on Friday. Of course, the semi-finals will be on Monday and I'll be watching along with both of them. Right, I've had my view. You have yours. Get it in the comments and we will look forward and keep the playoff coverage coming. It's going to be a fun few weeks. Over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.